Hi, my name is TJ Sorgenfry, and the title of the book that I chose is The Joy of Listening to God by Joyce Hugget. And so kind of the reason I chose this book was because I knew I was going to choose the solitude part of the project that we're doing. And so I was like, man, the joy of listening to God. That sounds like spending some time alone with God. I kind of want to learn what are some ways to listen to God. And Joyce, really in this book, it takes you on a journey of her journey as she learned what she calls contemplative prayer, which is basically spending time alone with God in complete silence and just listening to what he has to say. And she shares the struggles, and she shares the triumphs, and she shares all the strategies and all the things that she learned throughout. She ends up going to some Catholic monk monasteries, some Catholic convents, and she talks to the monks and the nuns about how they listen to God and the kind of things that they do to set their minds on God and remove the distractions. And then she takes that and applies it to her own prayer room. And so she ends up carving out a time in her day when about from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. to just spend time in silence with God. And this didn't replace her other prayer life where she would pray out loud for people or pray out loud for her family or for herself. But this is kind of just a time that she would dedicate just to listening to God and being silent in his presence. So I know for me, this was kind of eye-opening to see this side of prayer and how to listen to God in silence, because I am a thinker and I'm more of like your analytic. So I am easily distracted and my mind's always going. And so I could already tell, like, when I think of sitting in silence, it's just kind of scary for me. But reading this book, she even mentions how like distractions come up. So she'd be sitting in her closet or her room and she would hear birds outside and she'd automatically get distracted when she was trying to be quiet, or she'd hear house noises in the house and it would just be distracting. But she talks about how like to turn those distractions into worship. So she would hear the bird and she would end up worshiping God for his creation and for creating the beautiful sound that came from that bird. And so it's just kind of this sense of humbling your heart in the prayer room that was really just inspiring for me. And I've already suggested this book to a couple of my friends, and it's just been very eye-opening to me. But I just want to mention some things that I want to apply to my life after reading this book. And so one of those things is, like I said, she carved out about an hour each day to just be quiet in the presence of God. And that's something that I want to be a part of. So I don't know if initially I'll be able to do an hour straight, because an hour without talking, I know for me would be kind of difficult. If there's not someone like in the room talking to me, it might be kind of hard. But I'm super interested in trying it out. And then she also does this thing where once a month she dedicates to being what she calls her quiet day. So she'll go out on the countryside or go somewhere where she can be alone. And she'll just be silent all day. And that sounds very challenging for me, but it's something that I want to try at least once or twice, or maybe even just implement it every month. I'm not sure. But she just spends that day worshiping God in silence and admiring his creation. And it just sounds so cool to me, and I just want to try that out. But the second thing I want to apply to my prayer life actually comes from a quote that she says. And it says, "Enthusiasm for him is not enough. Wisdom is not enough. Fame is not enough. Obedience to him is crucial for the person intent on progressing in the Christian life." So I think for me, it's really easy when I pray, to want to pray out loud and pray passionately because it makes it feel like to me that God hears me. But ultimately, what I learned from this book is that obedience and just listening to what he has to say, and that it's not about my will, but it's about his, and being obedient to his will is what will help me progress and will help me grow the most in my relationship with him. So I'd say those two things are things that I really want to change about my prayer life and something that I learned. And yeah, I'm really excited to grow in Christ and to learn through these new methods.